When the final move is love, can the game still be won? Welcome to the heart-pounding conclusion of one of the most addictive love stories out there, Tangled Games Dating Games. Part 3 by K.LeighRomance. If you thought the first two parts were intense, prepare yourself. The emotional stakes have never been higher. Harley and Easton started off as a lie fake dates, fake feelings, fake future. But somewhere along the way, the game became real. And now, they're both standing at the edge of something life-changing, or life-shattering. In this final chapter, past secrets come to light, tough choices must be made, and love is tested in ways neither of them ever imagined. Can two people who never intended to fall in love find a way to stay together when everything around them threatens to pull them apart? Tangled Games. Part 3 delivers a powerful blend of raw emotion, sizzling chemistry, and hard-earned redemption. It's a story about tearing down your walls, facing your fears, and choosing love even when it's the most terrifying move on the board. Hit play, take a deep breath, and get ready for a finale that will break your heart and put it back together piece by breathtaking piece. Chapter 15. Anderson. I can barely keep my eyes open as Creed drives along the road leading to my estate. I'd forgotten how draining days like today can be. A ribbon-cutting ceremony, a speech at a charity where my father's a patron. Then heading to the palace for a meeting with my father and some ambassador before being rushed 50 miles in the opposite direction to attend the memorial service of one of our country's last surviving WW2 veterans. As much as I'd hoped to ease back into things, the royal household had different plans. Sadly, this referendum has more support than it ever has in the past. And part of it has to do with my MS diagnosis. I never considered the possible consequences of going public with my diagnosis this past winter. Either did my father when he encouraged me to do so. Perhaps we should have because, not even a week later, a well-known group of anti-royalists started collecting signatures in order to bring the referendum to a vote, using my diagnosis as proof that the monarchy isn't as strong as it once was. So the more I show I'm willing and capable of fulfilling all the duties of king, the more confident voters will be in my abilities, the less likely they'll vote in favor of turning the monarch into a purely ceremonial position. But after a week of constant appearances and meetings, not to mention preparing for a wedding in 7 weeks, I'm drained. Every night I've come home and barely made it to bed before collapsing. I tell myself the next day will be better, that it won't be so exhausting once I'm back in the swing of things, that I've simply been away from all of this for too long. But it hasn't gotten better yet. Worse, I've hardly seen Nora. Apart from a few minutes every morning for breakfast, when our private secretaries run through our busy schedules for the day, which haven't intersected for a single joint public appearance. By the time I get home late at night, she's already asleep. We're here, sir. Creed's voice cuts through my thoughts as the car comes to a stop in front of my residence. Thanks. Creed, I respond, my exhaustion evident. He jumps out and runs to open my door. I step down from the SUV, but when my feet hit the pavement, my legs give out beneath me. Creed reacts quickly, wrapping an arm around my waist and keeping me upright. You okay, mate? He asks in concern. Switching from my chief protection officer to my closest friend, I'm fine. I attempt to push away from him, not wanting to make a big deal of it. My leg must have fallen asleep on the drive home. He loosens his hold, yet doesn't let go. Are you sure? I shrug him off, taking a few cautious steps. Once I'm confident my legs won't fail me again. I continue toward the house, hiding any hint of uncertainty in my expression. Lately, I've seemed to have had quite a few flare-ups. After the first dizzy spell, I told myself it was nothing, that people get dizzy when moving quickly all the time, that the soreness in my muscles wasn't connected to my MS. But with each muscle spasm and dizzy spell, the lies I tell myself are becoming harder and harder to believe. Yes, I'm sure. Good night, Creed. I expect to hear his typical, "Your Highness," but it never comes, making me slow my steps and glance back. He looks around to make sure no one's nearby to witness him break protocol, then jogs up the steps toward me, his gaze narrowed. "Do you think this is the best course of action? Anders, you've only been back a week and are already exhausted. I told you. I know. It's important for people to think you're capable of carrying out the responsibilities of king when the time comes." He licks his lips, hesitant. "But if you keep going like this, you won't be able to. Perhaps you should reconsider infusion therapy. Your current course of treatment doesn't seem to be working. Or, at the very least, go see a doctor who's not being paid by the royal household. The palace neurologist is one of the top people in his field. On paper, that may be true, but as your chief protection officer, it's my job to protect you from all threats, including from within." He leans toward me. "Including yourself. Anders, if the palace neurologist signed off on this schedule, which your private secretary claims he did, then he's not the right person to be in charge of your care. Even I'm bushed, and I'm not fighting MS. You are. You need to acknowledge that fact before it's too late." He allows his words to sink in for a beat. "Your Highness." After a quick bow, he retreats down the steps and ducks inside the SUV. On a long exhale, I squeeze my eyes shut and pinch the bridge of my nose. I know he's right. No, I can't possibly keep this up. But I still struggle with a certain level of denial, just like when I was first diagnosed. I don't want to admit it's because of my MS. Want to believe it's something else. Anything else. Don't want to believe I'm getting worse. Sensing Creed's gaze still focused on me through the darkened windows of the idling SUV, I turn and trudge the rest of the way up the front steps, a butler greeting me the instant I walk inside the estate. "Your Highness." He bows. "Can I get you anything before you retire for the evening?" "No, thank you." "Of course." He stands to the side, posture rigid, as he'd been trained, my hip muscles still unusually stiff. I do my best to hide any limp as I make my way up the grand staircase. Once I reach the east wing where the private quarters are located, I slowly open the door to the bedroom, hoping it doesn't creak and wake up Nora. My grandmother tried to insist I move her into the guest quarters at the palace to remove any appearance of impropriety, since we're not yet married. I adamantly refused. I barely see her as it is. If she didn't live here, I'd probably never see her. I won't isolate her further from me, which is exactly what my grandmother wants. As I slip inside the room, I expect to see that Nora's fallen asleep reading a book, as she's prone to do. To my surprise, when I look at the bed, a soft glow from the side table the only light. Her eyes meet mine. "Hey," she says sweetly. With that one word, all my troubles melt away. The day is nothing more than a distant memory. Her soft voice and kind smile a reminder of what I want to come home to every day for the rest of my life. "Hey," I reply, dragging my body toward her as I tug off my tie and drop my suit jacket onto the floor. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I kick off my shoes and crawl on top of her, taking the book from her hands. "Rebecca." She shrugs. "Seemed like a good idea earlier." Her expression falls. Now it's hitting a bit too close to home. "How so?" "A nobody falls in love with a somebody, who then takes her to be lady of his English estate, where she's made to feel inadequate at every turn." I place the book on the nightstand and lower my lips toward hers. "You are not inadequate. How can you be when you saved my life? When you continue to save my life every damn day?" She moans as I coax her mouth open, desperate for a taste of her. Her fingers scrape against my scalp as her tongue glides against mine, awakening a stirring sensation low in my belly. As I run my hand up her frame and over the swell of her breasts, her nipples straining against the thin material of her tank top. She tightens her grip on me, trying to pull my body even further into hers. But it's still not enough. For either of us. Still doesn't satisfy our unquenchable thirst. I need you. She whimpers when I tear my lips from hers, peppering kisses along her jawline and neck, knowing how much it sets her off. I clamp my teeth onto her earlobe, circling my tongue around the sensitive flesh. And I need you. Gorgeous. You have no idea how bloody much I need you. Then have me. I plan on it. I return to her lips, kissing her once more before pulling back. Just give me 10 minutes to clean up. Okay. She smiles and nods. Okay. Okay. I leave her with one more kiss, then take my time to stand. Once I'm confident I won't lose my footing, I rush toward the bathroom. Anderson, she says, as I'm about to close the door. Yes, I meet her seductive gaze. Don't shave. I miss the feel of your scruff between my legs. Yes, my lady, I say with an exaggerated bow, not wanting to keep her waiting any longer than necessary. I take one of the quickest showers of my life. After today, I need this connection, need to lose myself in Nora. As long as we're able to leave the outside world behind, even for a few moments every night, I'm confident we'll survive this tumultuous world. Once I've washed away the day, I dry off, not bothering to dress in anything more than a pair of boxer briefs. I don't plan on wearing them long anyway. Okay. Gorgeous, I say upon walking out of the bathroom, a wall of steam following me. I'm all clean and I trail off as my gaze falls on her. Her chest rises and falls in an even pattern, lips slightly parted, eyes closed in peaceful slumber, on light feet. I head to her and take the book out of her hands once more, placing it on the nightstand. I bend toward her, kissing her forehead. I love you, I whisper. After I turn off the lamp, I walk to the other side of the bed and climb in. I set my alarm for 30 minutes earlier than usual in the hopes of taking care of her tomorrow morning instead. I nuzzle close to her, inhaling a deep breath, her comforting aroma carrying me to sleep. It feels like only a second passes before my alarm buzzes, rousing me, keeping my eyes closed. I turn it off and reach for Nora. When I don't feel her, I open my eyes to find an empty bed. Even at 6 a.m, I toss the duvet off me and stand, wrapping a robe around me. When I step into the hall, one of the members of my staff greets me, waiting to cater to my every need. Good morning, Your Highness, the woman says with a curtsy. Did Ms. Tremblay already go down to breakfast? Actually, she left for London early this morning. London. I shake my head, wondering why I wasn't made aware of this. It was a last-minute trip. The designer, Her Majesty wants for her wedding dress, had availability to squeeze her in today. Oh. I swallow past the lump in my throat, hating she's in London without me. I promised I'd take her one day. Yet another broken promise. I debate canceling my engagement scheduled over the next several days to surprise her with a romantic weekend away. She's only been here a little more than a week, yet I can't help but feel like I'm losing her, like there's a divide between us when we were once strong and impenetrable. But when I glance at the copy of the local newspaper left on a silver tray outside my door, the headline reporting the referendum still has strong support, despite the announcement of my engagement. I'm reminded of my obligations to the crown. Nora will have to wait. Chapter 16. Nora. Are you feeling okay? Love. I look up from the fruit I'd requested for breakfast. I thought it would be the easiest on my stomach, but nothing seems appetizing right now. Just morning sickness. I give Anderson a smile, not wanting to ruin the few minutes we have together before we each have to go our separate ways for the day. I'm sorry. I swallow hard, pushing down the acid rising in my throat at the mere thought of eating anything, sliding the bowl away. I opt for a small bite of my dry toast instead. It'll pass. I tell him in the hopes it eases his worry. He has enough to concern himself with lately. Anderson has spent every day of the past 3 weeks attending meetings, galas, public events, all to prove to the nation that his MS won't limit his ability to lead when the time comes. If the time comes, there's still a possibility this referendum will pass. By the time he gets home after working for sometimes 16 hours, I'm usually asleep, or if I do manage to stay awake in order to have a few minutes with him, he's exhausted with only enough energy to shrug out of his clothes before collapsing into bed. We've barely spent more than an hour together lately, outside of sleeping in the same bed. I can't help but wonder if it has something to do with my impromptu afternoon tea with his grandmother the day after our engagement was made official. Despite the palace PR team trying to arrange a few public appearances where Anderson and I are seen together, something more important always comes up, causing me to go pick out floral arrangements alone, or taste cakes alone, or pretty much do everything alone. Are you sure that's all Anderson asks after I attempt to swallow down some toast, fighting my body to do so? That there's not something else bothering you? What makes you think that I take a timid sip of water, unsure whether it'll help keep the few bites of food down or cause it all to come back up and destroy the tablecloth that probably costs more than most of the clothes I owned before I met Anderson? Because I know you. He grabs my hand, brushing his thumb against the diamond ring on my right hand. God, I've missed this connection. The roughness of his skin against mine. I miss him. Miss spending hours doing whatever we wanted as we roamed New York City for hidden gems. Like when I took him to the subway grate made famous by Marilyn Monroe, both of us proceeding to pose like the famous actress did. Or when he showed me the Hess Triangle in the West Village, a small triangle of privately owned property in the middle of the sidewalk that's the result of a dispute between the Hess estate and the city. Or when I took him to Grand Central and demonstrated the magic of the Whispering Gallery. How one person could whisper something while standing on one side of the famed arches, the person standing on the other side clearly hearing it over all the noise of the train station. He'd whispered he loved me. Then quite a few things that would make even some of the girls working at the strip clubs blush. Remember what I told you before we stepped off that plane Anderson presses, pulling me out of my memories. I need you to be open and honest with me. If I don't know something's upsetting you, how can I help fix it? I don't want to always worry that you're not telling me something that affects your well-being. If you keep things from me, I will be... I study his own tired appearance, his weary eyes, eyelids drooping, bags underneath. I look at his hand as it caresses mine, noting he's been chewing his fingernails, a habit he only does when extremely stressed. I hate the idea of adding to that stress. Hate the idea of making him feel guilty simply because I'm a little homesick, that I've rarely been able to talk to my friends because of the time difference, that I wish I saw him more. All I can hear are Queen Veronica's words she shared with me during tea, that it's my job to continue the illusion, to not let the world see that being near the crown is a burden. And that means not letting Anderson see being close to him has become a burden. I'm just a little nervous about today. That's all. He furrows his brow, glancing down at his calendar on the tablet in front of him. Is it something for the wedding or a training exercise? My heart sinks, and I lean into him. I told you last week, I keep my voice low. I have my first appointment with the Palace OBGYN. Even made sure it was on your agenda. I look from him to Lieutenant Colonel Bridge, who sits on the other side of him, as he always does during breakfast in order to review his schedule. Most days. This is the only time I get with Anderson, yet I still must share it with his private secretary. Am I always going to have to share him shite? He squeezes his eyes shut. I pull my hand from his, my shoulders slumping. I don't even have to ask. He either forgot or my appointment never made it onto his calendar for today. Possibly both. I'm sorry. Nora, I guess I lost track of days or something. I swallow down the disappointment bubbling inside me and force a smile, despite being on the brink of tears. It's utterly ridiculous for me to be upset over this, It's only a doctor's appointment. But after suffering a pregnancy loss as traumatic as I did, I'm constantly worried I'll lose this one too. Constantly scared of sitting in that exam room all alone. What if the doctor tells me there's no heartbeat? I went through that alone once. I don't want to go through it again. It's okay. There will be more appointments. I say, although my voice lacks any conviction. Hopefully there will be more. But will he be at those, or will they also be conveniently left off his schedule? Anderson shifts his gaze from me, pinning Lieutenant Colonel Bridge with a glare. Why isn't Ms. Tremblay's appointment on my agenda? It was, he begins. Unfortunately, a few things came up last minute that were deemed a higher priority. I laugh under my breath. Of course they did. I have no doubt his grandmother played a role in this. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but after she all but bribed me to walk away, what am I supposed to believe? What do you mean by that? Anderson asks. Nothing. I grab my napkin, dabbing at my mouth before pushing back from the table and standing. Anderson and Bridge jump to their feet, their own etiquette training kicking in like it's second nature. I have a busy day, so I should get to the palace. Am I to assume I won't be seeing you at my doctor appointment? I'll be there. Anderson says without a moment's hesitation. But, sir, Bridge interjects. Your schedule is quite packed today. I don't see how we can add anything else without canceling something. And, as I mentioned, everything is deemed a high priority. I understand that. Anderson responds in an authoritative tone. But my priority is and always will be Ms. Tremblay. Her doctor appointments are the highest priority, even above anything to do with this referendum. He turns back toward me, grabbing my hand. I'll be there. Don't make any promises you have no intention of fulfilling. Anders, I'd rather go in knowing you won't be there than be disappointed later. If I tell you I'll be there, I'll be there. He loops an arm around my waist, pulling me against him. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice Bridge lower his head and walk away, giving us some privacy. As I expected. After all, overt displays of affection between royalty are severely frowned upon. Better yet, I'll cancel all my engagements afterward. He nuzzles my neck, peppering light kisses along my skin. We'll have a nice, romantic dinner in the gardens, then a night to do anything we want. I close my eyes and melt into him, in a heartbeat. All the unease that's consumed me since I woke up this morning slowly vanishes. This is exactly what I've needed. To not feel so alone. To be reminded why I gave up my old life. Now I have something else to look forward to instead of spending all day worrying about my appointment. How does that sound? Gorgeous, he asks in a husky voice that should be illegal in public, or at least in his formal dining room, where we're never truly alone. Heavenly. Good. He abruptly pulls back, leaving me wanting, judging by the smirk on his face. He knows it too. To be continued later. He waggles his brows. For now, shall we? He extends his elbow for me. Of course. I hook my arm through his, allowing him to lead me from the dining room, down the corridors, and out to the front driveway where two black SUVs wait to whisk us away for our morning obligations. He kisses my cheek before I turn, giving Lieutenant O'Kelly a smile as he holds open the rear passenger door for me. I'm about to climb inside when a hand on my arm stops me. I whip my head up to see Anderson clutching onto me. Then he yanks my body against his. Killian, you might want to turn around. Particularly if public displays of affection make you uncomfortable. Yes, sir, my protection officer says with a slight laugh, doing as he was ordered. And what kind of public display of affection did you have in mind? I flirt. This. Anderson's hold on me tightens as his lips slowly descend toward mine. It's not a ravenous, desperate kiss, more loving and affectionate. His tongue urging my mouth open and swiping against mine in carefully measured strokes. I sigh and curve into him further, wanting to be as close to him as possible. His kiss is like that first warm, spring day after a winter of cold and desolation, like that first taste of wine after a long, trying day of work, like the smell of hot chocolate on a snowy day. Welcome, inviting, absolutely beautiful. New rule, he says when our kiss comes to an end. What's that I toy with a few tendrils of his hair? What I wouldn't give to run my hands through it and mess it up so it more closely resembles the man I met in that Chicago diner. No more leaving without kissing each other goodbye. You kiss me goodbye every morning. He gives me a knowing look. A kiss on the cheek is a rubbish way to say goodbye. Rubbish bullshit. I hate it. All because of some stupid rule against public displays of affection. This is our home. So if we want to make out on the front steps, we're going to bloody make out on the front steps. To hell with who sees. I laugh. An overwhelming sensation of weightlessness filling me. My chest expands at the love I can physically feel radiating from his heart and into mine. From now on, we agree to never say goodbye without a real kiss. Okay, I edge toward him, ghosting my lips against his. I think this might be my new favorite rule. Chapter 17. Nora, sometimes it. As the littlest things make the biggest difference in your day. One positive thing to change your outlook. That's precisely the impact Anderson's new rule has on my day. I've had so much positive energy all morning that I've barely thought about my doctor's appointment. I feel deep in my soul it will all work out. That it won't be like the last time a doctor hooked up the ultrasound machine to me, only to quickly turn the screen away so I wouldn't be able to tell there was no heartbeat. This time, I won't have to go through it alone. No matter what happens, Anderson will be by my side. Pardon the interruption. I pop my head up when my private secretary peeks into the conference room where I'm currently in the middle of a meeting with my PR team, all of whom I'm convinced hate me. A call just came in for you, ma'am. No longer having control over who has access to me has been one of the most difficult things for me to get used to. All incoming calls to my old cell phone are forwarded to one screened by my private secretary, who decides whether I should take them or if it's simply something for him to handle on my behalf. Prince Gabriel, I ask. In the past 3 weeks, Anderson's the only one he's let through. Everyone else has been told to leave their information for me to call back. No, ma'am. It's a nurse from a hospital in New York. My breath hitches, panic rushing through me. Maybe it's just Izzy reaching out to see how I'm doing. I glance at the clock to see it's only a little past noon here, meaning it's barely after 3 in the morning in New York. Lieutenant Thomas drops his voice. Mentioned it's regarding your friend, Chloe. I jump to my feet. I'll show you to an office for privacy. Thank you. He quickly leads me from the conference room to a vacant office a few doors down the corridor. But unlike most office spaces I've seen in my life, this isn't filled with fluorescent lights, a cheap desk, and filing cabinets. The desk is solid mahogany, the walls all built-in bookshelves, containing what appears to be law books and other historical texts. Here you go, ma'am. He hands me the phone. Thank you. He bows, then closes the door. Silence surrounds me as I close my eyes, drawing in a deep breath, trying to brace myself for whatever news awaits me. But nothing could have prepared me for this. This is Nora Tremblay. Well, look at who is so important as to have somebody else answer their phone calls. A sudden chill envelops me, my stomach roiling at the sound of that grating voice, one I would have been happy to never hear again. Mom. On shaky limbs, I lower myself into the ornate chair. Surprised you are difficult to get in touch with. Have you not been getting my messages? I grit a smile, despite the fact she can't see me. It's become a habit. I have. Too busy to call dear old Mum back. She mimics a proper British accent, much like the people speak with here. I bite down on my lower lip. It would be so easy to hang up on her, tell her to never call again, then order my private secretary to make sure she's unable to get through if she does. After all, There are only two reasons she'd ever get in touch with me. She either wants something from me, or needs to feel superior and wants to use me as a verbal punching bag for a few minutes. Perhaps both. I need to address this, though. Not ignore it and allow it to blow up down the road. Need her out of my life, once and for all. Actually, yes, I am quite busy these days. But that's not the reason I didn't return your call. In case you've forgotten our last conversation, I've turned over a new leaf. Yeah, she slurs. Evidence she's been hitting the liquor hard tonight. You're removing all the negative energy from your life. Or whatever new age bullshit you've been fed. It's not bullshit. As a psychiatrist, I'd think you'd be happy to learn I'm taking steps to clear the clutter from my life. Speaking of which, imagine my surprise when I turn on the news a few weeks ago and see my very own daughter making headlines across the world. Some call you the new Grace Kelly. You don't want to hear what others are saying about you. Trust me, it's not pretty at all. And it's certainly not pretty for me to be associated with some gold digger American who's only spreading her legs to be a princess. I clench and unclench my fists, trying to find my calm and serenity again. But it's impossible with this woman. Worse, she knows it. I don't know how she does it, but every time I'm having one of the best days in recent memory, she somehow senses it and decides to do everything in her power to make me feel inadequate. It's a talent she's had all my life. As enlightening as I find this conversation, I have a busy day, I say, practicing all the refined speech and etiquette rules I've learned. Why don't you get to the reason for your phone call? It's silent for a beat. Then I hear the telltale sound of ice against glass, confirming my suspicions that she is, in fact, drinking. At nearly 3:30 in the morning, I wasn't sure who to call about this, but I wanted to find out my travel arrangements. Travel arrangements for the wedding. What wedding? Your wedding? Of course. Oh, I see. A conniving smile pulls on my lips. Now that I'm about to marry a prince, you actually want to come to my wedding. Need I remind you that you showed zero interest in my relationship with my first fiancé, and even less in my wedding to Jeremy. In fact, you got married the same day, just out of spite. Oh please, Nora, that's always been your problem. You're so self-centered. The world doesn't revolve around you. I bark out a laugh. Me self-centered. Do you even listen to yourself? Since Dad died, you've done nothing but criticize and berate me. You've never supported me, never loved me. Like I said, I've made it a goal to keep all negativity out of my life. And you've never been anything but negative. So no, you're not invited to our wedding. She inhales a sharp breath. I can sense her exasperation from across the ocean. Excuse me, I'm your mother. How do you think it's going to look if you don't invite your own mother to your wedding? It'll look like I've grown the backbone I should have years ago. I will not have you there to ruin the most important day of my life. Until the next wedding, there won't be another wedding. I'm not you. We'll see about that. We certainly will. But you still aren't invited. I can make life extremely difficult for you. Don't forget, I know all your secrets. I'd hate for the world to learn them too. At one point, that might have been enough to scare me into caving to your demands. But not anymore. Go ahead. Tell the world my secrets. Anderson's the only person I care about, and he already knows everything about me. So you lose. Goodbye. Elaine, I say, refusing to call her mother. He's not Hunter, she says before I can end the call. I grind my teeth, resisting the urge to scream. She always has a way of saying the precise thing that will cut me deeper than anything else. That's not why I'm marrying him. Are you sure about that? That's why you married the last one. What was his name again? I just mentioned his name. I hiss. It's Jeremy, right, Jeremy. And he only looked like Hunter. But this one, well, in my line of work, you learn that relationships born out of a shared tragedy never survive. Her voice softens, oozing with sympathy. Except I know it's about as real as her latest lip enhancement. It won't bring him back. I don't need to bring Hunter back. He'll live on where he's meant to be, in my memories, which is where I plan on keeping you. At least the memories I have when you cared about me. You haven't in years. So, for the last time, goodbye. I punch the end call button on the screen, then shoot to my feet as adrenaline winds through me. Agitated, I pace the length of the room, trying to work off some of this anxiety. With every step I take, another painful memory of my childhood comes to the surface. How I was never good enough, how I was never smart enough, how I was never pretty enough. It all becomes too much. A lifetime of being made to feel incompetent and lacking burns within, until the only way I can find relief is to let it all go. So that's what I do. Forgetting where I am and any sense of decorum, I dig my hands into my hair and bend over, releasing all my pent-up frustration with a piercing scream. When the door bursts open seconds later, I straighten. O'Kelly's panicked eyes find mine. Lieutenant Thomas close on his heels. "What happened?" O'Kelly asks, scanning the room for any perceived threat, his hand on the gun in his holster, ready to immediately draw and fire. Smoothing a hand down my hair, then my dress. I take a moment to compose myself. Grabbing my phone off the desk, I return it to Lieutenant Thomas. Minutes ago, I hated that he controlled who had access to me. Now I'm grateful for it. That was my mother. I tell him. His face blanches. It doesn't take a genius to know precisely what that means. I have no doubt Anderson's already briefed both men regarding her. I apologize, ma'am. The incoming call came from a hospital in New York. When she claimed it was about your friend, Chloe, I thought, and I thank you for that. I had the same thought when you told me. From now on, the only people I want you to put through are from the numbers already stored in my phone. Even if it's an emergency, my friends are more inclined to call from their cells. Understood, Lieutenant Thomas says, bowing his head slightly. It'll never happen again. I nod with an appreciative smile. Thank you. I tap my fingernails against the arm of the chair as I sit in the waiting room of the palace physician's office. When I learned I'd be attended to by one of the in-house physicians throughout my pregnancy, as is the protocol, I assumed the appointments would take place in a private office located somewhere in the palace, similar to the nurse's office at school, but on a much classier level. Never did I expect to walk into an entire hospital wing within the palace walls. Apart from having a private waiting area reserved for immediate members of the royal family, it's like every other medical complex I've been to. Sterile surfaces, fluorescent lights, the smell of bleach and latex. It's a small taste of normal in a life that's anything but. I steal a glance at the clock hanging over the doorway leading to the exam rooms, every tick seeming to echo and vibrate through me, almost mocking me. I try to tell myself it's not a big deal. He's only 15 minutes late. Perhaps he got delayed at one event, which caused a ripple effect throughout his day. I know firsthand how one delay can put the rest of your day behind schedule. But when the sound of a cell ringing echoes through the room, a premonition settles in my stomach that he's not simply running late. I lift my eyes toward Lieutenant Thomas sitting beside Lieutenant O'Kelly in the far corner, remaining as discreet as possible. He pulls the phone from the inside of his jacket pocket. Ms. Tremblay's line. This is Lieutenant Thomas. He meets my gaze as his Adam's apple bobs up and down. Of course, sir. He rises to his feet and walks toward me, holding out my cell. It's His Royal Highness. I take the phone and bring it up to my ear, closing my eyes to fight back my tears. I attempt to collect myself. You're not going to make it, are you? I manage to say, my tone even, emotionless. Nora. Regret laces Anderson's voice. I'm so sorry. I wouldn't do this if it weren't important. And, fuck, I picture him tugging at his hair. I've heard that tone before. And that's precisely what he did. I'm so sorry, he repeats. But my grandmother fell ill, and I must cover for her. She was scheduled to appear with the Queen. But she is the Queen. No. She's the Queen Mother. I'm talking about the Queen of England. She flew in to attend a function at Westerly College. It was partly to show her support of the opening of the School of Medicine, but also to try to help turn the tide on this referendum. And since my father is currently in Spain, it now falls on your shoulders. You have no idea how sorry I am. Nora, I promise to make it up to you. I'll be at every other appointment, no matter what. I stare blankly at the wall in front of me. Today started with so much hope, so much possibility. How could it go downhill so quickly? Please, Nora, say something so I'm not sitting here wondering what's going through your head. I swear to you, I won't miss anything else baby-related. Like I told you earlier, I begin after a protracted pause. Don't make any promises you have no intention of keeping. I tear the phone away from my ear, jabbing the screen to end the call. Then I stand, Thomas and O'Kelly remaining stoic and unemotional. I hand the cell back to Thomas, keeping my shoulders squared and expression even. Can you tell them I'm ready to go in now? A flash of remorse crosses his face. Would you like to wait? Perhaps call Her Highness Princess Esme to see if she'd be able to join you? I vehemently shake my head, never feeling so alone, despite constantly being surrounded by people. That's not necessary. I should get used to being alone now. I may very well be alone for the foreseeable future. Chapter 18. Anderson. Have you heard from her? Creed asks. Glancing into the rearview mirror as he drives faster than normal on the way back to my estate, what a crap day this has turned out to be. I had every intention of being there for Nora, was looking forward to seeing that first ultrasound of our baby, then devoting the rest of the afternoon and evening to her. It's no secret we haven't had much time to ourselves since arriving here 3 weeks ago, but the second Bridges' phone rang around lunchtime, and he gave me a concerned look. I knew my plans had all gone up in smoke. If it were anyone else, I would have insisted someone other than me attend, perhaps Esme or one of my cousins, all of whom the royal household often calls upon to help when needed. But the Queen of England is too important to send third or fourth in line to the crown. Hell, she's too important to even consider sending the second in line, which was why it fell on my shoulders. I check my phone, seeing my texts have been delivered but not read. No. Creed nods subtly. After a few more moments of silence, I blurt out, I'm a complete fuck-up. Aren't I? You had your reasons for missing her appointment, he offers, but I say, sensing he's holding back. Regardless, she also has every reason to be upset with you. I know. I squeeze my eyes shut and pinch the bridge of my nose, fighting against a headache, like I have been most of the day. So what am I supposed to do? How do I make this right? He studies me for a beat in the mirror as he slows to a stop in front of my residence. You grovel. He puts the SUV into park and turns to face me. And when you're finished groveling, you grovel some more. That woman has not only sacrificed everything for you, her home, her friends, her job, she's now carrying your child. I'm not sure you've ever shown her your appreciation for everything she's done for you. I open my mouth to protest to the contrary, searching my brain for proof that I've shown her my appreciation, but nothing comes to mind. I've told her how grateful I am. I've showered her with gifts. But Nora's not the type of woman who cares about material things. How would I feel if our roles were reversed? Probably exactly like Nora feels right now. Alone, lost, betrayed. Creed opens his door and darts around the SUV to open mine. I'm cautious as I step onto the ground, making sure I have my footing before placing my full weight on my legs. Once I straighten, he bows, then stands aside as I walk up the stairs and into the building. Your Highness. My head butler greets me with a bow. Richard. Ms. Tremblay is out back in the gardens. I thought perhaps... Of course. Thank you. Yes, sir. He bows again, then retreats. I pause in the foyer, running a hand over my face as I try to come up with something to say to Nora to make this better, make this right. It was only one appointment, but to Nora, it was more than that. It was about having me present, something I've done a shitty job of lately. I'm not sure how to balance all these new responsibilities the crown has placed on me and being a good fiancé. Now I understand why my father never remarried after my mother passed away. It's impossible to balance both a relationship and running a country. No wonder most monarchs don't marry for love, but to simply produce the requisite heir and a spare. But I don't want that life for me. My mother didn't want that life for me, either. Exhaling a long breath, I make my way out the back doors and through the gardens. I don't even have to question where Nora is. I know. She was just as drawn to this spot as I was the first time I saw it. So I head straight for the overlook along the rocky cliffs. As I approach, I slow, pausing to appreciate how beautiful she looks as she sits on the bench, gaze focused on the crashing waves below. The breeze blows through her hair, the moonlight illuminating her silhouette, making her appear ethereal and otherworldly, like something from a different dimension. Then my gaze shifts to what she holds in her hand, a grainy black and white photo, something that resembles a bean inside a dark space. If I felt like an asshole earlier, it's 10 times worse now that I see the first picture of our baby. I should have been there when she first saw it, too. Baby's doing well, she says evenly, not looking at me, measuring 9 weeks. So that's about right. And the heartbeat is strong. But because of my past complications, the doctor wants to see me again in 2 weeks to make sure everything's still progressing well. But don't worry, I won't expect you to make room for me in your hectic schedule to be there. I advance toward her, my eyes pleading. You have no idea how badly I wanted to be there today. I know. She stands, leaving the ultrasound photo on the bench, taunting me. Trust me. I know. She faces me, revealing bloodshot eyes from what I can only assume to be hours of crying while I attended a gala thrown for the Queen of England. For the last several hours, I've berated myself for being upset with you for breaking your promise. It's not like you didn't have a good excuse. But what happens next time when some foreign minister comes into town, or the president, or someone else more important than me? Lord knows that list is miles long. Nora, I say again, stepping toward her. But she holds up her hand, stopping me. I get that you have responsibilities. I've had this duty to the crown edict ingrained into my head every damn second since I stepped off that airplane. I know all about your duty. And apparently, my sole duty is to provide an heir and a spare, making me feel like I'm nothing more than a walking uterus. You're so much more than that. You know that. Do I? Because these past few weeks, you've done little to make me feel that. Anders, I've never felt so goddamn alone in my life. I left the only home I've known for you, left my friends, for you, and now I'm going through this pregnancy, which scares me absolutely shitless. All for you. With each word she speaks, her voice becomes louder and more choked with emotion, tears falling down her cheeks. If I want to be with you, I have no option but to give you children. That's part of the deal of marrying the future king, something I wish you'd have told me. After everything I went through last time. She raises her face to the sky, her eyes glistening against the moonlight. Then she levels a stare back at me. But I'm willing to put these fears aside. For you. Willing to sacrifice having my best friends at my side when I all but sell my soul to this monarchy. For you. What have you given up to be with me? I open my mouth, unsure what to say, but she answers for me. Nothing. Anders, you've sacrificed nothing. The vein in her neck pulses against her skin, her muscles taut, anger and despair mixing in a lethal combination on her face. I miss my home, miss the stench of New York, even on garbage day, miss my friends. But you don't seem to care about any of that. She pinches her lips together in a tight line as she crosses her arms over her stomach, seeming to shrink into herself. Maybe your grandmother was right. Maybe I am too weak for this. What do you mean? My gaze flames with fury and surprise. When did she say that? She shrugs. At tea a few weeks ago. The ink on our engagement announcement was barely even dry when she pulled me aside to tell me I wasn't good enough for you. She doesn't speak for me. You know that. Just the rest of the royal household. She throws up her hands. Hell, the rest of this entire fucking country. What do you want me to do? Walk away from this because I will. For you, Nora. I will. She swipes the tears from her cheeks. I would never ask you to do that. As much as I can tell certain things about this life aggravate you, I saw your face as we were landing and you laid eyes on your country for the first time in a while. She smiles sadly. It's the same way I feel when I see the Manhattan skyline. You love your home, you love your country. And when I walked off that plane on your arm and caught my first glimpse of Prince Gabriel, I realized you were born to be king, to lead. You said it yourself. You have the opportunity to do good, not just for your country, but for all of Europe, maybe even the world. After all, she swallows hard. With great power comes great purpose. Her eyes lock with mine, a beat passing between us. Then she lowers her head. But when I saw the photos of you with the Queen of England today, it finally hit me. What did... She lifts her gaze back to mine, smiling sadly, that the man I've seen during public events and in the media is a complete stranger to me. Her chin trembles, her words as difficult for her to say as they are for me to hear. That I don't know you anymore, that I don't know the man I'm supposed to marry in a few weeks. I step toward her, clutching her cheeks in my hands, swiping her tears away with my thumbs. Yes, you do. You're one of the few people who does know me, who knows who I really am, who knows Anderson North, everything else. This person who has to cut ribbons, kiss babies, and make speeches. Prince Gabriel, that's not really me. That may be true, but lately, that's the only person I've seen. How am I supposed to share my bed with a stranger? How am I supposed to marry a stranger? She peers into my eyes, begging me for an answer I can't give. Then she steps away and turns toward the house. Where does this leave us? I call after her, biting on my lower lip to stop my chin from quivering. I don't want you to walk away from all of this either. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. You saved my life. An ache bubbles in my throat, the pain excruciating. Why do I feel like she's slipping away with nothing to anchor her to me? Like I'm losing her. Like this world is tearing us apart, and you saved mine, she admits sadly. But I'm not sure it's enough anymore. I'm not sure I'm enough. You are. I advance on her, framing her small face in my large hands once again, holding on to her like she's a lifesaver, and I'm being tossed around by a tumultuous sea. You're more than enough. You claim I was born to be king. There's no doubt in my mind you were meant to be my queen, that you are strong enough for this role. She searches my eyes, as if they contain the answer she's been seeking. Then she pushes out of my hold again. At one time, I would have believed that. And now, she exhales, licking her lips as she collects her thoughts. Now I need time to think. I hope you can at least give me that after everything I've given you. I want to argue that we don't have the luxury of time, that in mere weeks, we're supposed to walk down the aisle of the National Cathedral and get married. But she has a point. After all the sacrifices she's made for me, time to think is the least I can give her. Okay, thank you. With a sad smile, she turns from me and walks through the gardens. I love you. Nora, I call out after her. She pauses, but doesn't immediately respond, taking a moment to collect her thoughts. Finally, her purple blue eyes meet mine. Eyes I once dreamt about before I even knew her name. Eyes I've been lucky enough to wake up to nearly every morning for the past several months. Eyes I've noticed lose more and more of their luster since we arrived here. And I love Anderson with all my heart. But I'm expected to marry Prince Gabriel. She shakes her head. That man is a stranger to me. Chapter 19. Nora. The sun peeks through the heavy drapes in the bedroom I typically share with Anderson. Or is it Prince Gabriel? I don't even know anymore. All last night, I'd tossed and turned, replaying our argument in my mind. Was I too hard on him? He did have a valid excuse for missing my doctor's appointment, but it wasn't just a missed doctor's appointment. That was simply the impetus that made me realize something I've been struggling with since our engagement was announced. That I've rarely seen the man I fell in love with. That in his place is a relative stranger. That I'm expected to marry a man I feel like I don't even know. The man I've been sharing my bed with barely resembles the one who approached me in front of Lincoln's tomb and tried to impress me with his useless knowledge of the plot to steal Lincoln's body. I want to marry that man. I'm not sure about this other person he's become since we landed in Belmont. It's times like these I wish I were still in New York. All it would take would be a single text to Evie, Chloe, and Izzy, and they'd drop everything to offer me the advice I need. Or a proverbial slap in the back of the head if they thought I was being ridiculous, as has been known to happen. Grabbing my old phone, I check my international clock to see it's a few minutes past 9 on Thursday evening in New York, while we used to get together every Thursday night at a local bar near Chloe and Evie's work. Once they got pregnant and moved out to the suburbs, we opted to trade the local bar for one of our places, usually Izzy's or mine, figuring it's worth a shot. I find Chloe's contact information and hit the FaceTime button, waiting as the call connects. I feel like I haven't talked to them in ages, not just the few weeks I've been here. After I FaceTime them to tell them about our hasty wedding announcement and the reasons behind it, I haven't had much time to get in touch. My day's filled from the second I wake to the moment I fall into bed. We've all sent the occasional text, but that's not the same. A ping from my phone brings my attention back to it. Chloe's bright, gray eyes and brilliant smile greeting me. "It's about dang time you called," she exclaims. "We were starting to think you'd forgotten about us. I could never forget about you girls." My throat constricts at the sight of Izzy's familiar townhouse in the background. It reminds me of home. They remind me of home. Chloe moves from the kitchen island, setting her phone onto the coffee table in front of a couch I'm all too familiar with, Evie's and Izzy's faces popping into view. "We miss you so much," Evie states. "When are you coming to visit?" Izzy inquires. "Is that why you're calling?" Evie beams. "To tell us you're coming soon. Girls' night isn't the same without you. It's like we're missing an important member of our gang." "I know." I sigh longingly. What I wouldn't give to be there with them right now. I'm just so exhausted lately. "You have a lot going on," Chloe encourages. "You're in a new place, new country, new life. You're also pregnant. That puts a lot of strain on your body," Izzy adds. Always the nurse. "You need to make sure you get plenty of rest and take care of yourself, regardless of everything else you have to do." "I am," I tell her, although nothing could be further from the truth. I don't have time to take care of myself. As has been ingrained into my brain these past several weeks, my needs will always come second to the crown's, that from now on, I serve the monarch in the country. It's a noble idea, but I would love nothing more than to be selfish and put myself first, even for just a day. "How's Anderson?" Chloe asks, a touch of hesitation in her voice. When I don't immediately respond, she eyes me warily, somehow able to pick up on the tension. I should have expected nothing less. She's always had a unique ability to read me, even when I tried to hide my feelings from everyone, including myself. What happened? She pushes. I expel a long breath. Everything came to a head last night, and I snapped. Since we arrived here, we've barely had time for each other. Between all the pre-wedding planning, public engagements, and princess training, Izzy holds up a hand. Wait a hot second. What's princess training? Is that really a thing? Of course. My voice oozes with sarcasm. The future of this very nation depends on whether I know how to hold my teacup properly. In a way, it does. Like Queen Veronica told me, it's all about the illusion. Once the illusion disappears, once people see us as normal, the monarchy risks becoming obsolete. We haven't had sex since right before the king announced our engagement. I admit softly, over 3 weeks ago. When you say right before, Evie states, are we talking in the throne room before? Or, no, not the throne room. I giggle, already feeling better and a little less homesick. Pity. Chloe smirks. But getting back to this unusual dry spell, what's going on with you two? Why no hanky-panky? For some couples, 3 weeks wouldn't be long at all. We've gone longer, but not when we were living together, and certainly not when we shared a bed every night. We haven't had time. Our days are filled with obligations, even on the weekend. We're torn in 2 different directions. There have been a few nights I've tried to stay up until he got home, but I'm constantly exhausted. Plus, morning sickness has kicked my butt. Most days, I can barely stomach more than some dry toast or crackers. And let's not talk about how much the royal family hates me. Esme doesn't hate you, Izzy reminds me. At least the few times I've met her, she seemed quite nice. Not like a princess at all. Oh, Esme's great. It's Anderson's grandmother who worries me. God, that woman. Chloe rolls her eyes. She's been known to make even some paparazzi cry, and they usually have thick skin. You have to in order to not give a shit about invading someone's personal space in their moment of vulnerability. All for $1. I wouldn't be surprised if she has a jar where she stores all their tears, or souls, or hearts. Either would I. Pretty sure she tried to get me to cry when she invited me for tea. All my friends lean closer to the screen, hanging on to my every word. Do tell. Evie grins mischievously. You guys can't repeat a word of this conversation, or really anything. My PR team wouldn't like the idea of me talking to you at all. Since you two work for a magazine. I point between Evie and Chloe, but that's not going to happen. Damn straight, Evie snips. We'd hunt you down, plan a rescue mission if we had to, bust you out of there. I bark out a laugh at the image of a very pregnant Evie and extremely pregnant Chloe being part of any sort of rescue attempt. Plus, you know we'll never share things you tell us in confidence. Chloe adds, that's not how we work. We may love our jobs, but we value our friendship more. We've kept you out of the headlines so far, haven't we? Yes, you certainly have. I smile, although my heart squeezes, emotion overwhelming me. I love talking to these girls, but every minute I do makes me miss them more than I thought I would. Makes me want to pack my bags, hop on a plane, and never look back. But if I did that, I'd be leaving a piece of my heart here. I'd be leaving Anderson here. So what happened at tea with Queen Veronica? Evie presses. She tried to bribe me. Their eyes widen. As long as they're able to establish paternity, of course. They won't pay if I'm not actually carrying Anderson's child. Bribe you. So you'd leave. Izzy's voice rises at the end. Yup, unless I opted to eliminate the problem. I tell them using air quotes. All their mouths drop open simultaneously. That hag, Evie exclaims once her shock wears off. Hag isn't a word I'd use to describe Queen Veronica. At least not regarding her outward appearance. She's the picture of beauty and grace. But I can attest to the fact that the inside doesn't match the outside one bit. What did you tell her? Izzy inquires. I told her to shove it. And not just metaphorically. Word for word. I told her she could take her bribe and shove it up her ass. The line goes silent. My friends staring at me in shock. Mouths agape. Then Chloe laughs. Soon, everyone joins in, including myself. I can't remember the last time I've laughed. The last time I've felt this happy, even if it's fleeting. Wait a minute. Chloe clutches her protruding stomach as she struggles to breathe. You told Queen Veronica, Anderson's grandmother, the Queen Mother, to shove it up her ass. I shrug, my lips quirking into a small smile. Then I got up and stormed out of there, but not before curtsying and saying, Your Majesty, in an overly dramatic way. I swipe at the tears streaming down my cheeks, unsure if it's from laughing or crying, possibly a combination of both. It's official. Chloe says, You're my hero. What was I supposed to do? I counter. Accept her offer to leave. Not an option. And now Izzy interjects. Is leaving still not an option? The frivolity filling our conversation mere seconds ago vanishes, all our expressions becoming serious. I don't know. I answer honestly. What did you and Anderson fight about last night? Evie asks. I glance toward his side of the bed, the covers still drawn up. Evidence he didn't sleep here last night. It all started because he missed my doctor's appointment yesterday. I don't even have to explain why that's a big deal. They know. To most women, that first appointment with your OB is a big deal. But for me, for someone who's experienced an excruciating loss in the past, it's even more important. Did he tell you why? Izzy asks. Wait, Chloe interjects. He had an appearance with the Queen of England, didn't he? It doesn't matter that she was promoted to the current affairs desk at the magazine a few years ago and is no longer working on the celebrity news column. Chloe still likes to keep an ear out for gossip. Then again, this is probably more current affairs than gossip. Queen Veronica was supposed to greet her and appear with her at Westerly College. I explain, but she woke up with a head cold and didn't want to get the Queen sick, so she asked Anderson to fill in on her behalf. I know how it sounds. I add quickly, he definitely had a valid reason, so I didn't go all crazy on him because of one isolated incident, but because of everything else, too. Chloe states matter-of-factly, it was just the catalyst. The event that drew into focus something I've felt since our engagement was announced. And what's that? I look up at the ceiling, taking a moment to collect my thoughts. As I stood next to Anderson, his arm around my shoulders, while his father announced to the media that he'd granted us his permission to marry. It felt like a stranger's arm was around me. It wasn't Anderson's, it was Prince Gabriel's. This man I know nothing about. I brushed it off though, because I still saw bits of Anderson, too. But in the past few weeks, as I've learned more and more about the royal family, its history, seen coverage of his public appearances, it feels like I'm sharing a bed with a man I don't know, that I'm about to marry a man I don't know. Evie offers me a sympathetic smile. If any of my friends can empathize with what I'm going through, it would be her. She dealt with something similar with her husband, Julian. Maybe not to the level of Anderson and me, but she can certainly relate. Do you want to know what changed my mind about Julian? She asks, her green eyes awash with compassion. What's that? I realized how lucky I was. When I first learned that Julian kept this huge secret from me, that he was the subject of the article I'd been writing for the magazine, unbeknownst to me, I was absolutely furious. It was the worst kind of betrayal. But then I realized the truth. The truth, I repeat, swallowing hard through the ache burning my chest. I was one of the few lucky people to know Julian, the real Julian, not this other persona he'd created. Just like you're lucky enough to know the real Anderson, the side of this highly sought-after prince that no one else gets to see. Who cares if you don't know Prince Gabriel? What you have is infinitely more special. Sure, when his father was up there announcing your engagement and upcoming marriage, Anderson may have not been the same man, but I guarantee you the love he has for you is the same. Don't throw it away because you don't think you know him. You do. You know him better than anyone, and I'm not saying that because you own his cock. I burst out laughing, swiping my tears from my cheeks. It's because you own his heart, Chloe adds. Regardless of whether he's the Anderson you met on Route 66 or the Prince Gabriel the public adores, His heart is still the same. There's no doubt in my mind that it beats for you, and only you. Emotion swells in my chest, and I choke out a sob. God, I hate all these pregnancy hormones. Oh, don't get me started, Evie says. I was watching Schitt's Creek the other day and couldn't stop crying. Was it the series finale, Izzy asks? Because I cried during that, too. Evie slowly shakes her head. No. It was that scene where David and Stevie are buying wine and equating the wine to David's sexuality, like how he likes red wine and white wine, and sometimes a red wine that used to be a white wine. Her lower lip quivers. It was so beautiful how accepting Stevie was of that. The line falls silent for a moment before we all laugh once more. Unfortunately, my moment of happiness is cut short by a knock on the door. Ms. Tremblay, you need to be at the palace in 90 minutes. I groan, cursing under my breath. Thank you, I reply in a bright voice. You have to go. Chloe presses. Duty calls. I sing. It was so good to see you girls. It was great to see you too, Izzy offers. Let's make a plan to do this every week, Evie says. You need some normalcy in your life. Let us be that for you. I beam. I'd really like that. We would too, Chloe states. Now go. Be a fucking princess. Okay, I'll go be a fucking princess. Love you girls. We love you too. I blow a kiss to my friends, then end the call before dragging myself from my bed for another day of learning how to be a princess. Or, as Chloe puts it, a fucking princess. I like the sound of that much better. But that still doesn't solve my Anderson Prince Gabriel problem. Can I really promise my life to a man I barely know just for the brief glimpses I get of Anderson? What if those brief glimpses become fewer and fewer until Prince Gabriel swallows him up entirely? Is Prince Gabriel a man I want to be with? I wish I knew how to answer that. Chapter 20. Anderson. If you ask me, it was kind of a dick move. Esme snips out, not holding back at all. I didn't expect her to. She never does. What choice did I have? I throw up my hands as I sit in the director's office of a local children's home, where we'll play with some of the kids and read them a story. All to promote literacy and bring attention to the need for more families to open their homes to foster children, a cause Esme champions regularly. Grandmother fell ill. Someone had to meet the Queen of England. It didn't have to be you. She argues, arms crossed. You know damn well it did. Esme, when the Queen of England comes, either the Queen Mother or the highest-ranking member of the royal family must go. Since Father was out of town, it wouldn't surprise me if she wasn't sick at all and only canceled to keep you from going to Nora's appointment. I wave her off, not voicing that I had the same concerns. It wasn't just the doctor's appointment. That was merely the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. I pull my lips between my teeth, resting my forearms on my legs as the previous night's conversation plays on repeat, like it has all morning. She claims she doesn't even know who I am, I managed to say through the lump in my throat, and rightly so. Esme agrees. I furrow my brow, darting my eyes toward her. What do you mean? She smooths a few strands of her golden blonde hair behind her ear, then saunters toward me. Always one to shun expectations and protocol, she's dressed in a sleeveless blouse tucked into a pair of skinny jeans that make her long legs appear even longer. And as a big middle finger to the establishment, she wears a pair of wedge sandals with her toes peeking through two big no-nos. Then there's me, the picture of conformity crisp suit, cleanly shaven face, tie that's begun to feel more like a noose than an accessory. Since the news of your engagement broke, she's been immersed in this world she's had absolutely no previous experience with. She's expected to jump right in, feet first, and become a princess, wife, and royal in mere weeks. Remember how you felt when you were pulled out of school, sent to London, and forced to learn a new way of life almost overnight. I lower my head, nodding slowly. Well, for Nora, it's even harder. At least we had some exposure to all of this first. She never has. When we were ripped from our world, what was the one thing we had that helped us through it all? Each other. I admit, looking around the room, the linoleum floor is cracked, and some of the tiles in the ceiling show signs of water damage. Books fill the shelves lining the far wall, many of their bindings worn. It's a rude awakening to visit places like this. Makes me even more grateful for all the opportunities I've had. Precisely. Anders. She sits on the couch beside me, taking my hands in hers. We had each other. With everything else in our world turned upside down, we were able to find comfort and stability in the idea that we were still the same people we were back in the country, riding horses and getting covered in mud. But Nora, she shakes her head. She boarded that plane expecting to start a life with Anderson North, but instead came face to face with Prince Gabriel of Belmont. We're the same person, I argue. She smiles sweetly, resting her hand on my bicep. No, you're not. You may think you are, but Anderson immediately turns into Crown Prince Gabriel when the cameras are rolling or there's a crowd. You can deny it all you want, but in your heart, you know it's true. The second you're back in this country, you're different. It's not a bad different, she adds quickly. I adore you, and that includes all the different versions of you. Nora's lucky to know the side of you most people don't get to see, as am I. How do I make her see that? I ask in frustration, jumping to my feet and digging my hands through my hair. Dizzy from the sudden movement, I place my hand on the armrest of the sofa as I attempt to maintain my balance. I take several deep breaths, blinking repeatedly in an attempt to clear my vision, but everything's still slightly blurred. Esme eyes me warily, her attention focused on my hand gripping the armrest. Are you okay, Anders? I take a moment to steady myself before straightening. I'm fine. I grit out a smile, ignoring the ache in my hip, something else that's become more prominent lately. So, how do I make her see that? I repeat in an effort to shift the subject back to Nora and me. She levels a stare on me, then sighs. I don't think your problem is showing Nora she's lucky to know Anderson. She knows she is. She wouldn't have agreed to marry you if she didn't. Her expression softens. Maybe she needs to get to know Prince Gabriel. I grind my jaw in irritation. But I am Prince Gabriel. To her, you're Anderson. This man you've become is a stranger to her. But she places her hand on my arm, cutting me off. Do what all strangers do when they like a girl. I blink, shaking my head. I don't follow. Jesus Christ. Anders. She throws up her hands in frustration. Are you that out of touch with reality? She retorts playfully. You see, in the real world, when a guy likes a girl, he asks her out on something called a date. You want me to ask my fiancé out on a date, not a regular date? A date with Prince Gabriel. And you think that will fix this? She shrugs. I don't know, but it's worth a shot. At the very least, it'll show her you acknowledge her concerns, that you're trying. That's all people want out of a relationship. To know your worries don't fall on deaf ears, to know the other person is listening. So show her that. A knock on the door cuts through, and Bridge peeks his head into the office. We're ready whenever you are. Thanks. Nathan. We'll be right out. He bows. Sir. Then he does the same to Esme. Ma'am. She acknowledges him with a smile before he disappears. Shall we? I look at my sister. Absolutely. I begin toward the door, the stiffness in my hip and leg causing me to lose my footing and nearly topple over. I grab onto the desk as Esme rushes toward me, helping me upright. Anders, you need to go to a doctor. I argue. And not the bullshit neurologist on the royal household's payroll. A real doctor. I'm fine. I grind out. You are not fine. Stop being such a stubborn ass. There's something going on. It's just stress. I haven't been sleeping well either. So that doesn't help. You know as well as I do that stress can exacerbate some of my symptoms. Muscle strain, dizziness. That's all this is. I promise, I'm fine. Once things settle down and this vote on the damn referendum is over, I'll be as good as new. I straighten, pushing through the pain in my hip as I step away from her, demonstrating that I'm fully capable of walking unassisted. See, I'm as good as gold. Now, let's go. Don't want to keep the kids waiting. I hold out my elbow for her to take. She studies me for a beat, then exhales, walking toward me. If you say so. She lifts her eyes to mine. But you'd tell me if it wasn't stress. You wouldn't keep me in the dark about your prognosis. Right. My smile cracks as I peer into her vibrant blue orbs that mirror mine. The one piece of our mother we both have. Her concern is well-founded. After all, our mother suffered from a more severe form of MS, but kept most of her symptoms from us physical and psychological until it was too late. I hate the idea of lying to my sister. More than that, I hate the idea of her worrying about something she has no control over, that I'm quickly learning I have no control over, either. Of course I will. Esme, good, because I can't lose you, too. I lean down, placing a soft kiss on her forehead. You won't. Promise. I'm not going anywhere. She wraps her arms around my waist, clinging tightly to me, resting her head against my chest. You'd better not. She pulls back, pointing a finger in my face. Because if you do, I swear to God, I'll strike a deal with the devil to make sure you're tortured for all eternity. That's assuming I'm going to hell when I die. A pretty lofty assumption, if you ask me. She places a hand on her hip. Trust me, my darling brother. I know all your secrets. And if you go to heaven, provided such a place does exist, mankind is worse off than I originally believed. I bark out a laugh, the sound filling the room. At my lowest moments, I can always count on Esme to lift me up, to remind me what it's like to feel normal. She grounds me when I feel as if my world is spinning out of control. And it's this bond that helps me finally understand Nora's concerns. She hasn't had anyone to count on as her world spun out of control, threatening to throw her off. It used to be me, but as Anderson, now, while we're here, it needs to be Prince Gabriel. Hey, Esme, I ask. Yes, can you do me a favor? Her smile turns conniving, as if able to read my thoughts. Anything for you. Chapter 21. Nora, what are your plans now? Esme approaches as I make my way out of the palace conference room, where I just sat through yet another morning full of etiquette classes. I come to an abrupt stop, momentarily surprised to see her. Then I glance at my private secretary, almost positive I have a meeting with my publicist to go over a few events leading up to the big day. All staged to paint me as a woman worthy of marrying Prince Gabriel. It hasn't escaped my notice that everything planned is to make me appear worthy, to give off this image of perfection. I'm held up to impossible standards, whereas Anderson is revered and adored, regardless of what he does. It's such a double standard that no one can live up to, but I'm expected to do just that. Actually, ma'am, your next appointment has been canceled. I furrow my brow. My publicist's canceled, I repeat, making sure I understood him and pregnancy brain hasn't taken over already. Scheduling conflict. I believe you're free and clear for the rest of the day. Perfect. Esme claps excitedly. Then we're going out. There's this great little cafe in the plaza by the canals. She grabs my hand, tugging me down the corridor. They have the best tea and cakes around. You could use a break. Go somewhere other than home or the palace. You mean there's a world outside of these walls, I shoot back, only half joking. She leans toward me. Shh. Don't tell anyone I let you know. She winks. We'll stop by your place so you can change. Change. I'm sure you'd love nothing more than to put on a pair of jeans. Or really anything that doesn't require you to wear bloody pantyhose. You have no idea, I say. avoiding a few pointed stares from other members of the royal household who appear to believe the rules should be strictly adhered to. I can only imagine what they think of Esme's jeans and open-toed sandals, wedges no less. No. But if they disapprove, Esme doesn't seem to care. She doesn't seem to care much for any of the rules. Then let's blow this joint. With a devious grin, she hands me a pair of oversized dark sunglasses. Why do I feel like a prisoner about to break free from captivity? Because that's exactly what I'm about to do. I'd love to. He's not lost. Esme explains as her chief protection officer. Captain Walsh drives around the same few blocks a couple times. I didn't give them much notice to advance the cafe. Advance the cafe, I repeat. She smiles, but it's more out of annoyance than amusement. Welcome to life as a royal. You can't go anywhere in public without a shadow. Her eyes meet the man driving. No offense. Archie. None taken. Ma'am. She looks back at me. There's no more popping down to the local Starbucks for a quick coffee with friends. No going for an early morning run before the city comes to life. No strolling along the canal bridges to see the flowers on that first nice spring day. Every single one of your movements must be approved and organized with a security team. Anywhere you want to go needs to be scouted ahead of time to make sure there are no dangers hiding within. I nod. I may not be as accustomed to this as Esme, but I've had a little taste of royal living. People think it's a fairy tale life, that with a crown comes the ability to do anything you want. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's not optimal, but like everyone else, all you can do is try to make the best out of the hand you've been dealt. Although saying it like that makes me seem ungrateful. I'm not. I appreciate having a platform to bring attention to causes I believe in, just like you will. But everything in life comes at a price. You have to decide what yours is. She gives me a knowing look. He told you about our disagreement, didn't he? He did. And you think I overreacted? I say, filling in the blanks. Actually, I don't. This life can sweep you up in its current until you can no longer fight the riptide pulling you under. If you don't fight for yourself, no one else will. So I'm proud of you for fighting for yourself. Trust me. I know this isn't an optimal situation for any relationship. It will test you. She reaches across the seat and squeezes my hand. But if there's any couple who will persevere, it's you two. I feel it in my soul. She holds my gaze, then breaks away when the SUV comes to a stop. Here we are. Captain Walsh gets out of the SUV and swiftly makes his way to the back passenger door, opening it. Esme places her sunglasses over her eyes, then slides out gracefully. I put my own dark glasses on and join her, a few onlookers pointing and whispering. It doesn't take a genius to figure out who we are. Esme's supermodel appearance, coupled with the security presence, is a dead giveaway. But I don't care. I'll take a group of onlookers pointing and snapping photos over being locked behind the walls of the palace any day. This way, ma'am, Captain Walsh says, leading us toward an outdoor table with the perfect view of the plaza and canals. Men in casual clothes sit at a few nearby tables, drinking coffee or reading a newspaper. But I have no doubt they're part of the security team. They have the same look as every one of the protection officers I've met. Stoic expression, built physique, analytical eyes looking everywhere for a possible threat. I sit beside Esme, noticing all the chairs face the canals instead of each other, encouraging people to take in the beautiful surroundings. It reminds me of Paris, she remarks, placing her sunglasses on the table. I do the same. This is how many sidewalk cafes are set up there, especially along the Seine. I haven't been. She straightens. You haven't. Anderson promised he'd eventually take me. I shrug. So we'll see. Well, if he doesn't, I will. Everyone needs to experience the City of Lights. A peaceful expression washes over her, as if the mere thought of Paris reinvigorates her. Don't tell anyone, but it's my favorite place on the planet. I smile. Your secret's safe with me. Good. she replies as a man approaches. Unlike the rest of the waitstaff here, who wear just a white shirt and black pants, he's dressed in a crisp suit, making me think he's the owner or manager. Your Highness. He performs a slight bow. So wonderful to see you again. Would you like your typical order? Yes. Except let's do a green tea. One with a touch of ginger and peach, if you have one. Of course, ma'am. After bowing once more, he retreats. Don't worry, she says in a low voice. It's caffeine-free. And the ginger does wonders for any morning sickness. At least that's what I'm told. Now, if you'll excuse me for a minute, she pushes back from the table and stands. I need to go freshen up. I'll be right back. Okay. I watch as she retreats, a protection officer following, then shift my attention to my surroundings. I inhale the fresh air, feeling like a caged animal that's finally been reintroduced into her natural habitat. Since the engagement announcement, I've barely spent any time in public. The only times I've been allowed to leave the palace, aside from being at Anderson's estate, have been for pre-wedding planning or on a photo shoot with my publicist. Since the night the paparazzi found Anderson and me at Esme's safe house, as Anderson calls it, we haven't been seen together once, almost like someone doesn't want us to be seen together, doesn't want people to think we're actually going to be married, doing my best to push down the negative thoughts. I turn my attention back to the canals in front of me, marveling at the sheer number of people riding bikes here. When I sense a presence looming beside me, I look to my right, expecting to see one of the waitstaff approaching with our tea. Instead, my gaze falls on a suit-clad body, debonair smile, and enigmatic blue eyes. Anderson. What are you? Shh. He hushes me before I can finish. How about some role play? He winks. Role play. Here. Sure. We once did just that at least once a week in New York to keep things fun, meeting at various spots in the city and pretending to fall in love as different people all over again. But how is that going to help our situation? I'm not interested in falling in love with a stranger. I inhale a sharp breath, the realization washing over me. Or perhaps real play might be more appropriate right now, he says. Real play, I repeat. He nods slowly, keeping his hopeful eyes locked on mine. Yes, real play. I blow out a small laugh. I think that's exactly what we need. As do I. Chapter 22. Anderson, my name. Gabriel. I extend my hand, pleading with Nora to take it, like she holds my entire future in her hands. In a way, she does. Finally, she places her hand in mine. Nora. Nora. I croon in a husky voice that sends a visible shiver through her. She can try to deny it all she wants, but her body still responds to me the same way it did the first time our eyes locked in that Chicago diner. That's a beautiful name. Gaze trained on her. I gradually lift her hand to my lips. Her complexion reddens, chest heaving with her increasing breaths. When I brush my mouth against her knuckles, I swear a tiny moan escapes her throat. God, that sound does things to me. I release my grip on her before I can't resist the temptation to yank her from the chair and pin her against the wall as I give her a taste of precisely what she'll miss if she leaves. But I don't, remembering the part I'm here to play. Would you like some company? I gesture to the empty chair. I'd love some. Wonderful. Unbuttoning my suit jacket, I lower myself into Esme's chair. I get the feeling you're not from around here. What makes you say that? Just a hunch. Although that adorable American accent of yours is a dead giveaway. She's about to respond when the owner of the cafe approaches. Noticing me beside Nora, he straightens, my presence obviously taking him by surprise, but he recovers quickly and bows. Your Highness, good to see you. Louis, here are the tea, scones, and sandwiches. Her Highness ordered. Sir, lovely. Thank you. Of course. He gives Nora a smile and, after another quick bow toward me, retreats. I grab the pot and pour liquid into the 2 small teacups before adding a bit of sweetener to both. I slide her cup and saucer toward her, ensuring the handle points in the correct direction. A toast. I lift my teacup. With tea. Why not? What shall we drink to? She raises her cup. What do you say to second chances and fresh starts? A shy grin tugs on her lips, her eyes gleaming. I think it's perfect. To second chances and fresh starts. We clink teacups and take a sip. After returning my cup to its saucer, I grab her plate, serving her a few finger sandwiches from the 3-tiered presentation. I should probably tell you. I begin once I have a plate of my own. I'm kind of a big deal around here. Is that so? She places the cloth napkin over her lap. I can see why you wouldn't know, considering you're not from here. And why are you a big deal? Truthfully, it's rare that I lead with this information. Not because I'm trying to hide who I am. I add quickly, I simply don't want it to cloud someone's opinion of me. Most of my relationships have been superficial. People only tend to spend time with me because of who I am. To this day, I can count on one hand the number of authentic people in my life. I narrow my gaze on her. The number of people who know the real me. She averts her eyes, a hint of remorse tugging on her expression. But something tells me you don't have a superficial bone in your body. I continue, pulling her attention back to me. That despite who I am, you'll decide whether I'm worth your time based on my merits. Nothing else. I'd like to think I'm not one-dimensional enough to only want to be with someone because of any alleged clout they may have. Trust me, I was raised by one of the most superficial women out there. The last thing I want is to turn into my mother. Fair enough. I straighten, inhaling a deep breath. My stomach flutters, hands growing clammy. Why am I nervous? She already knows the truth, but I'm desperate for this to go right. Desperate for today to be the first page in this new chapter, not the end of a story cut too short. Here goes nothing. I take a deep breath and lift my eyes to meet Nora's. I'm a prince. Silence fills the air between us. I barely even register the background noises of the city around us. My confession lingering, much like it did when I told her the first time. And just like that first time all those months ago, she makes light of my admission. Is that just some cheesy pickup line? If so, you've got your work cut out for you, buddy, because I've heard better. I throw my head back and laugh. Trust me, gorgeous. I wish it were just some cheesy pickup line, but it's true. My name is Gabriel Anderson, Joseph Xavier Wellingston, and I'm next in line to the throne here in the beautiful country of Belmont. Is that right? Afraid so. Then tell me, Prince Gabriel. She edges closer, the gentle breeze wafting her perfume toward me. It reminds me of the miles we drove together in a Jeep Wrangler with the top down. For weeks after our adventure ended in heartache, I smelled her everywhere. I thought it was the penance I was forced to pay for my sins, that I'd forever be tormented by my brief slice of heaven while I roamed the depths of hell. Why is a prince talking to a girl in a sidewalk cafe? I imagine you must have no shortage of women vying for your attention. That's certainly true. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that quite a few people in my inner circle already have a strong opinion on who I should associate with, date, and eventually marry. You make it sound like a professional connection, not a romantic one. In my world, that's all a marriage is. A strategic decision. But that's not what you want. It's more a statement than a question. No. Then what do you want, love? I answer without a moment's hesitation. And not some promise or assurance that I may eventually learn to love someone. I want the real thing. That butterfly-inducing, heart-racing, soul-fulfilling love most people think only exists in fairy tales. Which is why I had to come over here and talk to you. Because the second I looked up and saw you, I trail off. Words feeling grossly inadequate to relay how I felt the first time I noticed her, and how I felt when I saw her walk into this cafe with Esme moments ago. We may not be the strangers we once were, but my feelings are the same. The way my heart aches for her is the same. Yes. She leans closer, desperate for my next words. I couldn't shake the feeling that you were put in my life for a reason. And despite what happens, I knew I'd always regret it if I didn't. Didn't what? Her breath dances on my lips, taunting and teasing, making my mouth salivate with an unquenched thirst. As much as I want to kiss her, I can't rush this. I need to sweep her off her feet, need to give her the fairy tale she deserves, but as Prince Gabriel this time, ask you out. I abruptly pull back. She blinks repeatedly, mouth slightly agape. Then she smooths a hand down her shirt, adjusting her composure. Ask me out. People do go on dates where you're from, correct? Yes. But then, Nora, from America. Would you do me the honor of accompanying me to dinner tomorrow night? Dinner. Yes. Dinner. How will that work? I'll pick you up and I get that. Her voice drops to barely a whisper. But what about any prior engagements, mine and yours? Consider them canceled. Canceled. I smirk. I managed to get your afternoon meeting canceled, did I not? As well as mine. I'll simply do the same tomorrow. You planned this. Her tone isn't accusatory, more appreciative with a touch of awe. I did. I clutch her hand, running my thumb over her diamond ring. We may not be able to be as spontaneous as we were in New York, considering every move we make here has to be properly planned, but I wanted to make this seem as authentic as possible. Her smile slowly builds, lighting up her entire expression. A glow I haven't seen in too long washes over her. Thank you, she squeaks out. That means a lot. It's the least I could do. I hold her gaze for a moment, then clear my throat, falling back into my Prince Gabriel persona. So what do you say? Can I take you on a date, get to know you better, allow you to get to know Prince Gabriel? I'd really like that. A weight seems to lift off her, allowing me a glimpse of the carefree girl I once made scale a fence so we could check out an abandoned drive-in along Route 66, despite the no trespassing signs. I'd really like that, too. I promise to do everything to make it a first date you'll never forget. I slide my chair back and stand, buttoning my jacket. I'll pick you up at 7. Grabbing her hand, I bring it up to my lips, savoring the feeling of her smooth skin. Until then, gorgeous. I'll be counting down the minutes. I reluctantly release my hold on her and turn, one of the protection officers jumping up from a nearby table and following. As I approach the sidewalk, a dark SUV pulls up, the officer opening my door for me. I'm about to get in, but hesitate, meeting Creed's gaze behind the wheel. Give me 1 minute. Yes, sir. A man on a mission. I stride back toward Nora's table, ignoring my sister as she sits beside her. Nora shoots her wide eyes toward mine. Did you forget something? Yes. She glances around the table. What I don't... This. In one swift move, I pull her up from her chair and yank her body against mine. Not giving her a moment to protest, I dig my free hand into her hair and lower my mouth toward hers. Anderson, she says quickly, placing her hand on my chest, stopping me. I search her face, petrified I'll see the same woman who left me alone in the garden last night. Instead, a sly smile greets me. What about the rules forbidding public displays of affection, she teases. From where I'm standing, we are most certainly in public right now. She gestures subtly with her head. I look where she indicates and see an interested group of onlookers. It's not a huge mob, but people are taking pictures. I have no doubt our location has already been leaked on social media. All sense of reason tells me to retreat, to remember the rules and my place. But why should I have to hide my love for this woman? Because some prude centuries ago thought it improper to show the world what love looks like. I'm done with that. Eyes narrowing. I tighten my grip. Fuck the rules. I growl, my lips covering hers. She's uncertain at first, seemingly at war with how to respond, what kind of backlash she'll face. I respond by holding her tighter. My tongue swipes against her mouth, begging her to kiss me back. That's all it takes for her to relax, parting her lips for me. At that first taste, she moans, running her fingers through my hair and tugging at it. Cheers and whistles echo around us, but neither one of us seems to care. All we do care about is this moment, of not permitting anyone else to dictate how we should love each other, of no longer hiding our love from the public. I pull away and stare at her in awe, my skin tingling. This time, it's not from the MS, but from the effect this woman has on me. I want to drag her home and lose myself in her for the rest of the night. But as much as I want her right now, especially after the dry spell of the past several weeks, her needs are my priority. Before I can make love to her as Anderson again, I need her to figure out where Prince Gabriel fits into her life. It's the only way this will work. I rest my forehead on hers, our heavy breaths echoing around us. I lick my lips, the taste of Nora still on them. 7 o'clock tomorrow, I tell her. 7 o'clock tomorrow. Good. I release her, about to retreat once more. But stop. I curve into the crook of her neck. And do me a favor. What's that? I drop my voice. Don't wear any panties. I allow my request to sink in, then meet her stunned expression, leaving a chaste kiss on her cheek. I head toward the waiting SUV, waving to a few onlookers who call my name. Did it work? Creed asks as he pulls away. Only time will tell. I answer, taking one last look at the cafe. Nora still in a state of shock. But if I were a betting man, I'd be all in.